Welcome to Aunty K's, your favorite radical queer indigenous auntie, bringing you tarot every day. Hi folks, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. We are here today so I can do a VR instead of doing some chores. I'll get to them. And this is a VR to Marlena Teresa's Tag Tarot to the Extremes round 2. So I first saw this on Amethyst Ascension's channel, and so I will link both of those two channels in the description box. All right, the first prompt for this tag is modern versus vintage. And for modern, I chose Fortune Queens, and it is by Juano Cristiano. It's one of my favorite decks. I use this deck a lot for work, and I also chose Mystic Medleys because, folks, this is based on 1930s art, and that is vintage. So this is my modern versus vintage choice, is Fortune Queens and Mystic Medleys. I use both of these decks a lot. Often if one is on my table, the other is not. It sort of switches back and forth as to which one is, in my my workbox. The decks that I keep in a little clear plastic container of what I'm using for work. And so these make a good pairing for unfair comparisons for that. They're both very RWS. I would call both of them clones. And they are, both bright, cheery decks that bring me a lot of joy. I find they're fun to use, these two decks. And so I'm often using one or the other. They have similar feels for me. I like the weird faces in Mystic Medleys. I find that helps me read it, because sometimes those faces are saying things that really should be said that aren't. Fortune Queens just brings me a lot of joy, and some of its choices are equally interesting, humorous, have something to say, and I quite enjoy them. So the next prompt is new moon versus full moon. So I chose the new moon tarot for new moon. And actually, the majors are in my work desk, so I'll just add those in there. And the Altringa Oracle as my full moon. It's this is a deck for dream interpretation. My 22-year-old and I share it, although they do more dream interpretation, whereas I do work within a dream. But it's a useful deck. And so this is my new moon versus full moon. And we're mostly going to get to see the majors here. I've talked about this new moon tarot a bit. I like everything about it except the court cards. And it's impacting my use of the deck. Using the majors from the deck means I don't have to deal with the court cards. My issue with the court cards is every king is exactly the same. It just has its elemental symbol on the bottom to differentiate it. Same with the queens, knights, and pages. So that is this is the setup for them. So this changes based on the suit, but this picture is the exact same for each page and then one for the knight, queen, and king. And it annoys me. I found it super lazy. The next prompt is cute versus creepy. And Triumphi del Luna in paradoxical purple, and probably in any color scheme, is definitely creepy. And my new Low Scarabeo Cat Marseille is definitely cute. I just got the Cat Marseille and have been using it the last couple of days on my work table. And then I pulled out Triumphi del Luna for a video I filmed yesterday, and it's probably going to be uploaded tomorrow, and then this one after that. I was like, oh, I'm going to pull out Triumphi del Luna, and I'm just going to, push and work with these Marseille decks for most of my readings. And I did. I did do that. Although I had one client who, had me pull so many different questions, I just kept grabbing a new deck. So I used these two and then 2 other decks. So this is my cute versus creepy. I don't think I really have to explain the choice there. Cute versus creepy. That is definitely, what we get in these decks. The all purple color palette, I thought I was so going to love. I don't know. When I'm working, sometimes it's just a bit much. And possibly that's because I work, evening, night, I don't know. I love this card. I love the cat, just pushing through here, making a big old mess. That played into a reading I did yesterday. I don't know that when I'm using the Triumphi del Luna, that the pictures are really informing me so much as it's a test of my knowledge and what I know. If I'm going to be perfectly honest about it. And the Cat Marseille definitely informs the picture. Sometimes it does what RWS does and boxes it in if you pay attention to the cat, but I feel like I can either use the little cat illustrations within it or ignore them as need be. So yeah, that's my thoughts on these 2 decks. The following prompt is on my table versus in my bag. So on my table in my work bucket right now is the Songs of the Grandmother by Cara Simon and Mari in the Sky. And I don't leave them in my bag, but because these are in tins, they're most likely to be tossed into my bag on the way out the door. And so that is the Tarot of Life and Demor's Fortunes, where I can also put a second Lenormand deck or Cartomancy deck in that tin along with it. In my bag and on my table. Now, I have 2 purses that I use. One is smaller, and these 100% come the option. I have a purse where there's a large leather purse, and I can fit 10 decks across the bottom of the purse, across the bottom, and then put, other stuff on top. The purse itself can hold 30 decks, plus my wallet, tobacco, weed, and a couple other essentials. And if all I'm putting in it is decks, I can put 40 decks in that purse. So, you know, in my bag is an extremely relative statement. But for the most part, I will travel with 2 decks minimum in my bag. Next up, we have realistic versus fanciful. So my my Rana George is definitely a realistic deck, and Curious Cats Club deck is absolutely fanciful. And so this is my realistic versus fanciful. And you know, cats doing both cat and human things isn't very realistic, and the art in Rana George is realism, so much realism. There's aspects of her life, her culture, her lands realistically depicted in here, whereas we have, you know, cats camping and flying on paper airplanes in the Curious Cats Club deck. So that is my realistic versus fanciful. You know, this was also a contender for cute. Although I felt like I had only one real contender for creepy. Tarot archetypal, maybe. But I think Trumfidel Luna is more creepy. So these are my realistic versus fanciful, and they are very, very frequently on my work table, as they are right now. Quiet versus loud is a prompt that wraps this up. And these 2 decks are decks I fell in love with, you know, one after the other. I reviewed Spectral World Tarot first, and then the Great Lakes Tarot, and I adore both of them. So it feels really fitting that they are my quiet versus loud. They are both pip decks, and no deck is louder than Spectral World, which I love so much for it. And Great Lakes Tarot is like quiet. It's so quiet. The colors, you know, we've got pinks and blues and greens and yellows, but they're muted, and the images are of nature, and Spectral World is like color explosion. What else can I say about that? Yeah, so this is my quiet versus loud to wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you later.